Hey, how's it going? Bill Lethman here for Money Evolution. In today's video, we're going to be talking about creating your retirement withdrawal strategy. And we're going to be going through a hypothetical client situation and talking about some of the strategies and some of the math behind transitioning your portfolio from one that was designed for retirement accumulation, where you were adding money to the portfolio on a regular basis, to one that's designed for retirement withdrawals, that you're going to start taking money out of the portfolio to cover your retirement lifestyle needs. But real quick, before we get into the content of today's video, if you're watching this and you'd like to learn more about what we do at Money Evolution, you can head over to our website, moneyevolution.com. There you can learn about some of our financial planning programs that are specifically designed for people that are getting ready for retirement or already in the early stages of retirement. We also created some free worksheets and some free guides that are designed to help you with some of this as well. One of these is something called the Retirement Launchpad that we developed, and it's a set of worksheets that is going to help you put together a budget and really start to get some of your financial assets and resources organized. We've also got something we call the Ultimate Retirement Planning Checklist as well, that goes through every single item that you're going to want to think about in the years going into retirement and in the early stages of retirement. So we'll put some links down in the description for all of that below, and you can check that out. Okay, so now let's get into some of the details here. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to really want to look at separating retirement in two parts. The first part is, what does it look like from age 60 when the clients first retire to age 67, when they're going to start to get some of that predictable income from Social Security. Of course, they're going to need some bigger gaps in those early years, and then as they get the Social Security benefit, that gap is going to get a little bit smaller. And by the way, this is something that's very, very common. In fact, I would say 90% or 95% of all of the financial plans that we do for clients end up having something very similar to this, where they have some bigger gaps in the early part of retirement, and then as some of that predictable income starts to kick in, that gap can get a little bit smaller in most cases here. So from age 60 to age 66, they need $120,000 a year to cover all of their retirement lifestyle needs. We're going to keep things, again, with this hypothetical, very simple. We're not factoring in any inflation or taxes, and that's something that really needs software to be able to develop that and really to map that out. That's something we do with our financial planning programs that we have through Money Evolution. But anyway, we're going to keep things simple. That $120,000 that they need, because of their asset size, which is $2 million, actually represents 6% for the annual withdrawal. And so something you may be thinking, or maybe you should be thinking here, is if you've ever heard me talk about it or other people talk about something called the 4% rule. And that's a generalized rule of thumb that says that you should limit your retirement withdrawals to 4% or less each year to have a good probability that the money is going to last you for the rest of your lifetime. So a 6% withdrawal is clearly above that. In fact, if you look at the probability numbers, some of the studies that have been done on this, if you take a 6% withdrawal out and you want to do that for the rest of your life, there's a very good chance, I think it's about an 85% chance, that you're going to run out of money if you start taking 6% out every year. It has to do with something called the sequencing of returns. It's all great as long as the portfolio, the markets are going up, but as soon as we go through a sideways market or a down market, then that becomes very difficult to recover from. So this is one of the main reasons that I like to look at retirement funding separately, because a lot of people are going to end up in a situation where your withdrawal percentage in the early part of retirement might be higher than 4%. It could even be 7 or 8% or even 10 or 12%. And that may still be okay as long as you have enough money at the time your income normalizes at that full retirement age, and that's going to be less than 4% per year. So that's really what we're going to look at, and that's why we want to separate this into two pieces here. So the way we look at this, again, in that first 7-year period, they're going to need $120,000 per year, which would be a total amount of $840,000 to cover that first 7 years. So the way we would typically set this up, and there's a lot of people that also subscribe to a bucket strategy, but this is our interpretation of it, we would say that you would want to keep about 7 years worth of cash flow needs in bucket number 1 and bucket number 2. Bucket number 1 is where you're going to have your safest investments there. That's going to be CDs, money markets, very short-term things, very conservative investments that are very liquid that you can get your hands on. And if we want to put 2 years worth of cash flow needs in there, that's going to be about $240,000. We also hope that we're going to make a little bit of interest in bucket number 1 and bucket number 2. As we're filming this in early April, 4% might be a reasonable percentage here, although interest rates have been bouncing all over, and last week they dipped a little bit below 4%. But we're going to assume for easy math and simplicity that you could make 4% on your money that's in bucket number 1 and bucket number 2. So even though you need about $840,000 to withdraw from that over that 7-year period, if you did get a 4% rate of return and took out $120,000 each year, you really only need to put about $720,000 in to fill up those first 2 buckets. And again, I rounded off some of the numbers here to make it a little bit easier. And so if we subtract that $720,000 from the $2 million, you have about $1.28 million left over to be in bucket number 3, which is your growth bucket. And that's what's designed for the long-term growth of the portfolio to help keep up with inflation and to be sort of that buffer for when you need to take money out and put it in the other parts of the portfolio. The way we would do this is, again, because your cash flow requirements are $120,000 a year for those first 7 years, but after the 7 years, your cash flow requirement is really only $60,000. You still need $120,000, but now you have $60,000 coming in from Social Security, so your need is $60,000. So what we would do is we would take money on an annual basis from the growth bucket, and we would keep buckets number 1 and bucket number 2 topped off so that when you get to the end of that 7-year period, you don't have 0 in bucket number 1 and bucket number 2, but you basically have refilled those, in this case with $120,000 in bucket number 1, which is going to be 2 years of your long-term cash flow needs, $60,000 a year times 2, and then you're going to have $300,000 in bucket number 2, which is 5 years of that $60,000 for that, and then whatever's left over is going to be in the growth bucket there. So we want to do some additional math here, and we want to see, okay, I'm going to start off bucket number 3 with $1,280,000, and we're going to take that money out of bucket number 1 and bucket number 2. We're going to fill those back up along the way. So in 7 years, when it comes time for collecting Social Security and our cash flow need drops from $120,000 a year to $60,000 a year, we need to have $1,500,000 available in our entire portfolio to have that 4% rule still be able to give them that long-term probability of hopefully lasting that client for the rest of their lifetime. So if we do the math backwards, we say, okay, our long-term need at the full retirement is $60,000 a year. If we divide that by 0.04, that's how we get to that $1,500,000. So if we go back up and say, okay, well, since we started off this whole scenario with about $1,280,000 in bucket number 3, one of the questions we want to ask is it reasonable that that $1.28 million would grow to $1,500,000 over 7 years? And I think the quick answer to that is, yeah, I think it actually is pretty reasonable. That's not very much of a growth rate compounded over 7 years to get to that $1.5 million. But is it guaranteed? Well, absolutely not. It's not guaranteed. It depends on the sequencing of returns, and it depends on what kind of 7-year period we're going to see. And the stock market, if we go back over 100 years plus of data, some of those 7-year periods have been very good. We might see $1,280,000 grow to $2 million over 7 years. That would be probably within the realm of possibilities. We could also see it, probably go flat and maybe see the market value of that still at about $1,280,000 at the end of 7 years. Or we could see one of those more negative 7-year periods, and $1,280,000 might fall to $1 million, or might even be a little bit less than that. If it fell to $1 million and we still need our $60,000 to take out of that portfolio, well, now we're right back up to that 6% withdrawal rate on the $1 million that we have left in the portfolio. And if we go back and we look at our probabilities of withdrawals and the probability that that money is going to last us for a retirement of 20 years or longer, again, that 6% withdrawal fails about 85% of the time if you look at some of the studies that are on there. So one of the ways that we can take a look at maybe reducing reducing this risk even further and creating some additional predictable income is to look at the idea of putting an annuity, and an annuity that's designed for income or for guaranteed withdrawals over your entire lifetime. So here we are in early April of 2025. Interest rates are still reasonably good in the overall fixed income market, and rates on annuities right now are actually pretty strong compared to where they've been over the last 10 years or so. Again, there's no guarantee we're going to stay at these rates, and depending on when you're watching this video, but as we stand right now, an annuity for a 60-year-old couple that's taking joint guaranteed income for the rest of their life, they could get 6% immediate income on their portfolio. Just to make the math easy, not saying this would be the approach, but if they put $1 million into an annuity and they turned on income right away, they would have $60,000 a year guaranteed for the rest of their lifetime. Additionally, though, where some of these annuities really see some pretty good withdrawal rates is when we start to defer taking income for a few years. So in this particular case, with this hypothetical example in this annuity, the annual increase of that withdrawal rate goes up by 0.5% every single year, which means that, for example, if they waited 2 years, they would get 2 times 0.5%, so they would get 1% more guaranteed withdrawal, so that would go from 6% to 7% if they waited 1 year. If they decided to do what we originally planned in this scenario, which is to build out those 2 buckets, having $240,000 in bucket 1 and $480,000 in bucket number 2, earning that interest and using that to basically fund those first 7 years, they could get 9.5% if they were to put money into an annuity and delay taking their first income until after the 7th year of deferral. And so what that means is that if we said, okay, what if we wanted to completely cover this additional cash flow gap that they have, the $60,000 a year. So remember, they need $120,000. They've got $60,000 coming in from Social Security, and if they wanted to get income coming in from an annuity to cover that remaining $60,000, we could just simply do our math backwards, divide that by 0.095, and it would mean that they could put $631,000 into an annuity, and worst case scenario, they would be guaranteed to get at least that $60,000 a year every year for the rest of their lifetime, guaranteed for both lifetimes, beginning at age 67. So if we look at that 631, that's essentially about half, almost exactly half of the $1.28 million that they have in that bucket number 3. So this is a way to maybe take some risk off and then get some more predictable income. Now they've got that remaining amount, that remaining $600 and some thousand left in the growth bucket, and now they don't have to worry about so much where the market cycles are going and if we're going through a sideways market or a down market, because they have all of their basic needs and expenses covered through their Social Security payments and the annuity payment, and they're just maybe going into that growth bucket for some of the extra things that are going to be maybe when inflation gets up a little bit, or they want to buy a new car, or they want to do a home project, or take a big trip, or give some money to their kids or grandkids or something like that. So anyway, so that's just kind of the way that we want to look at it. So again, what we learned was number 1 is looking at retirement in 2 phases, what you need to cover the early part of your retirement, and then what do you need and how much money do you need to have in the total portfolio at the time that you want to, that you're going to start getting some of that predictable income at your full retirement age. And you can retire even earlier. Some people might want to retire at age 55. All we have to do is basically calculate the amount of cash flow need that you need over that early retirement period, add all of that up, and then sort of remove that, at least mentally, from your portfolio and think about, this is the money that we need to fund that early retirement, and then making sure that once that income normalizes, you have at least enough money in there that you're not taking out more than 4% from the rest of the portfolio. You could do it with a simple bucket strategy. A lot of people do. The advantage of the bucket strategy as opposed to doing the annuity is if the markets go really well, you're probably going to get some better returns on that versus the annuity, which is going to be a little bit more conservative and not maybe grow as much as some of the other growth bucket assets go. But if you're looking to simplify things and not have to worry about what kind of market environment we may be going into, that annuity is a great way, I think, to really take pressure off of the rest of the portfolio so you don't have to worry about those market fluctuations quite as much and everything. So anyway, I hope you found this video valuable. If you want, check out some of those free resources that we have. We'll put some links down in the description below. And again, if you want to learn more about what we do at Money Evolution, head over to moneyevolution.com. Check out some of our retirement planning programs. We have the Money Evolution Plan, which is our full comprehensive plan that we work with you one-on-one through a series of meetings to fully develop your financial plan. We get into advanced tax planning strategies. We get into advanced cash flow and really putting the whole thing together, the whole package. We also have something called the Retirement Time Machine, which is a little bit more of a DIY experience, but we still have, you have an opportunity to meet with somebody on our team to go through, build out the plan and everything. It's going to just have a little bit more of that learning, educational, DIY element to it. So anyway, we'll put links down to all of that in the description. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you back in one of our future videos. Thanks.